Hello there, and welcome to production from Studio Mugenjohncel. NaNoWriMo 2012. Marijuana the Truth. I don't know what this is exactly about. I have no idea. Let's see. I know this background.
Good day, my friend. I see you come here to seek the truth.
Not really.
You have come to the right place. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Uncle Mugen. Please stay a while as you and me, well mostly me, tell you a few things you need to learn to understand marijuana. And do not worry, I'll try to explain it in a friendly, easy to grasp words. So we might use a few uncommon terms here and there, but what the heck. I'll try to explain them as much as I can. Let's get started. When you were young, you probably heard from your parents, grandparents, teachers and others that marijuana is bad for your health.
No, I did not. I mean, it's not really a thing in Poland, so... At least I believe so. I don't know, maybe I wasn't in an environment that would be mentioned at all.
And understandably, you'd believe them and grow up with the knowledge firmly embedded in you. But it is bad for your health and should avoid it. And in some cases, organizations like DARE, Drug Abuse Resistance Education, has come to your school.
No, never happened.
Or perhaps in some posters or pamphlet.
Nope.
Lecture about the bad effects of marijuana in greater detail.
Nope.
Not only that, you probably got told that you could get in trouble with the law when you associate yourself with marijuana.
Yes. That one, I guess, yes. That one's, I guess, the overall known thing.
I mean, if it's in the newspaper or being told by someone famous or influential, then it must be right. Is it? Have you ever wondered who gets to decide what's right and what's wrong? Or perhaps wonder if the decision those decision makers made is for the best interest? Unfortunately, this substance isn't one of them. Now, are you probably thinking that I'm just a low-life scum enticing you to try marijuana?
I couldn't care less, to be honest. I don't plan on to anyway. You can for medical reasons. Other than that, I don't see a reason.
If you think I am, then I prove that I have no ulterior motives. You can always close this program and delete it from your computer. I won't force you to listen to it or believe me.
I will learn, at least, right? So yeah.
Now, where were we? Oh, yes. If you ask the average person about marijuana, they'll probably say that marijuana is bad for your health, addictive, it can make you crazy, insane, kill you, and so forth. What if I tell you that everything you heard or learned from your parents' school preachers about that is a lie? What if I tell you that it is far more safer than the usual legal substances people abuse regularly? What if I tell you that it is made illegal not because it's bad for your health, but to protect the interests of the powerful few? Would you believe me? Well, okay, fine, let's go to the basics. What is marijuana? It is aka cannabis. It's a plant, a naturally growing plant found in nature. Actually, I think it's much better to use the term cannabis. Yeah, I think from this point I'll refer to it as cannabis. Since the term marijuana is derogatory and used by DuPont for their false propaganda, I'll tell more about that later. But for now, let's focus on the plant itself.
Whoa.
Cannabis is widely used throughout history. According to Wikipedia, the one-stop website for copypasta homework, cannabis has been used as far back as 3rd millennium before Christ. Let's see, 3rd millennium is about 3,000 years before Jesus was born, plus another 2,000 plus... that means cannabis has been used by humans far more than 5,000 years. Probably even longer, who knows? Cannabis has so many uses. It's been used for religious ceremonies, medicinal, food, ropes, and even cloth. Ironically, the earliest known sample of fabric is made from hemp. And hemp is cannabis. Lol, there was even time when cannabis can be used as legal tender. That's how important and how deeply embedded cannabis is in human nature. Culture. And then we go to the next question to ask. If cannabis is this widely used back then, why it's still illegal now? Let's see. It's actually slightly more complicated, but I'll try and make it simple. There are actually several things that happened late in the 19th and early 20th century that gave cannabis a bad name, like the now discredited Egyptian delegation from the 1924 Opiates Conference in Geneva, whose cotton exports are threatened by hemp, aka cannabis. Claimed that cannabis was dangerous and addictive, but it made some people go insane after smoking cannabis, which we now all know is a big fat lie. But probably one of the single biggest motivation for going so far and demonize cannabis is the greed, the human greed. Now where should we start? According to my awesome Google, during the Mexican Revolution of 1910, Poncho Villa's occupying forces were holding on a number of forests owned, no he did not, and logged by the Hearst publishing co-CEO William Hearst. Hearst, being an influential and powerful person during those times, started a smear campaign shortly after against the influx of Mexican immigrants. Despite the fact that his ancestors were definitely immigrants themselves, unfortunately cannabis usage was widespread among the Mexicans, and the reputation of cannabis also got smeared. For this, they used the racist Mexican term marijuana. Interesting. Of course, people being so naive back then believed every propaganda they saw on the news. I mean, it's still the same. I mean, it was in the news, then it must be true, right? Yeah, no, not really. And there are also these large pharmaceutical companies who are patenting new drugs, which see cannabis as a threat since they cannot patent a naturally growing substance. And so you cannot patent cannabis, you cannot make money out of them. So, same thing with petrochemical companies like freak you, DuPont. Don't know what that is, to be honest. They were preparing to monopolize fuel supplies and replace natural cannabis-derived products by synthetics, such as plastics and nylon, and take control of the paper industry and supply vast amounts of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. I honestly don't know that company. Is it a thing? For less sturdy crops such as cotton and tobacco. And by the 1930s, lobbying efforts are starting to ramp up. And thanks to the efforts of fine pastors like William Hearst, companies such as DuPont and very influential public servants such as Anslinger, who is most likely supported by assholes from DuPont, actually who was. Cannabis was almost completely illegal by 1936. And they did it at lightning speed with the American Medical Association, which recognized cannabis as a medicine. Wasn't even aware that marijuana that is being made illegal was actually in fact cannabis. And by the time the rest was too late, despite the vacuum of scientific papers, yellow journalists prevailed. I mean, William Hearst happened to be one of the largest media moguls of this time. And spreading propaganda favoring his cause is as simple as having it printed on his newspapers. Remember, back then newspaper equals truth as far as the ordinary people is concerned, despite being a big fat lie. Of course, we now all know the horrible truth and the circumstances as to why. And now we come to another important question. Now that we know marijuana is unfairly labeled and is actually a victim of human greed, to protect the selfish interests of the powerful few, why is it mostly still illegal? Well, you're probably already aware of the power of the media as a propaganda tool. During the early part of the 20th century, the marijuana prohibitionists wanted to protect their own interests, started a prolonged and thorough smear campaign, spreading lies and conditioning the public that marijuana is addictive and is bad for you. Then again, so are like cigarettes. They even go as far as make a movie called Reefer Madness. Never heard of it. That highlights the so-called dangers of using cannabis. The same propaganda machine also conditioned the naive masses back then, spreading lies that cannabis has no medical use. It has medical use. What the hell? Another thing that was really hurt the reputation of marijuana is its association with questionable lifestyles, such as hippies, needs, and losers. There's also this thing where people who grew up believing the false lies about marijuana as truth are somewhat comfortable to accept the truth. Especially people like politicians who have so much to lose. Yeah. Even for politicians, basically most of them should not be where they are. Even though they are fully aware of this issue. I mean, it's been banned for a long time, why change it now? You see, that is the problem. You have plants with so much potential to change the world in positive ways. We know marijuana is a food. We know it is a medicinal herb. We know it may revolutionize the industry of fabric. We know it's totally safe to your health. And the only thing that prevents us from accessing and further develop the potential of this marvelous plant are the policies put in place by government officials who are most likely in cahoots with large companies like DuPont and the others, who want to protect their own selfish interests.
I mean, I guess in the US it is true. Because, I mean, all those campaigns and so on, they are pretty much sponsored by some of the companies, right? I guess that's true.
I mean, have you tried it? No. I have, and I can 100% say that.
Oh my god, why am I burping now?
All the rubbish about marijuana being addictive will make you mad are total lies.
Cool.
In fact, I dare say the common tobacco sticks are a far greater health hazard and should be outright banned.
I just mentioned those later, earlier on. Oh boy. I mean, I've never smoked as well, you know. I have, you know, no feeling, oh, I need to try it. No.
Anyway, in the US alone, there are 443,000 deaths annually, including deaths from second-hand smoke. And that is for 2011 alone. Deaths that can be directly attributed to tobacco. While there have been no deaths ever for marijuana usage. Is that so? Even among those who use them daily and is backed by proper scientific research. Interesting. And let's not even get started on the so-called macho war on drugs. We already know what happened with alcohol prohibition. You ban alcohol, violent gangs take over and so forth. You lift the ban, gangs go away. Same thing today, you made marijuana illegal, criminals step in. And feel in demand. Unfortunately, disputes between rival gangs can only be resolved via violence, which ends up having civilians getting caught between. And as long as world governments hang stubbornly to this prohibition, don't expect violent gangs to disappear. Hey, knowing how lucrative the drug trade made possible by stupid government policies, I think myself might even join the fun and get rich from a harmless medicinal herb. I mean, they made it illegal to protect their interests. Why not capitalize on this golden opportunity? Grow them clandestinely and control the distribution and the profits. You know, make myself rich and powerful out of government's stubborn policies. Let's save that for later, okay? Please pretend you didn't hear that, lol. But you know what really made the war on drugs a total failure? Is the fact that they lumped marijuana with the genuinely dangerous stuff.
That's true.
Of course, people know that marijuana not only does belong with this group of dangerous substances, but it's also one of the safest harmless substances known to mankind. And by lumping marijuana in the mix, the whole war on drugs now became a joke. A joke where no one takes it seriously now and it's nothing more than a waste of time and resources.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Now that I think about it, there was, I don't really know how it's called for the English market and so on, but we had some substances now that were doing some crazy stuff. Basically, they would completely mess up your mind. And I mean, for example, in my city, there was literally a store for that crap, and there were stories when guys basically was losing his mind, would attack someone, would get his ass kicked, but he wouldn't feel a thing and would still continue, like quite literally. He ended up, I think, with a broken hand, and he still was going. That's nuts. So, I mean, I think everyone knows that what we are watching in this game here today, is not posing that. And it is a medicinal herb, yeah. Anyway, a really funny one, but painfully excessive for those who are touched by it. Anyway, we already have a ton of anecdotes and testimonies backed by scientific studies on how marijuana have relieved them. Yeah, oh, okay. Yes, we've seen some of those. I'm not sure if this was the thing, but was the illness where you are so completely shaky like crazy. I don't know, I don't remember the name, but apparently he was taking medicine with marijuana in it, I believe. And you know, the shaking would calm down. From various illnesses that no legal drug has done. Of course, you can expect the pharmaceutical industry to make a move and counter this by publishing more lies, in form of scientific studies highlighting non-existing harmful effects of it, to prevent their interests and market from being infiltrated by marijuana, which deny legitimate users who badly needed it, leaving them no choice but to deal with dangerous criminals who has them at ridiculously high prices. Don't you think it's silly to pay top dollar for a naturally growing medicinal herb? Okay, not everyone in this world is dumb enough to fall for the prohibitionists. In some states in the US, it is legal to use for medical purposes. Well, it's still subject to stringent procedures and somewhat difficult process of acquiring it. It's still a step towards the right direction. And while the lies of DuPont, Harris and Anslinger are already exposed to the world, we still have much to do to reverse its effects. We should start by teaching children in schools and in our homes about what really marijuana is. Shed away its association with hippies and instead promote its legitimate and responsible use. Yeah? And expose the lies of those who spread false information demonizing marijuana to protect their interests. I'm really old and will most likely no longer be here when the day comes that marijuana is finally seen as this. As a medicinal herb with legitimate use is and is readily available to those who will need it. This is my small contribution to the cause and to correct my mistakes of the past. And hopefully raise awareness and not repeat the same stupid mistakes again. Please, tell your families and friends. Help the world spread the truth about it. It's a tale and the people responsible for its demonization. Do it for yourself, for the future generation of children who will one day have easy access to this wonderful plant. Except probably not in the US, even if it were used for medicinal purposes as well in the US, I bet you it would be crazily expensive as anything there. I'm certain of that. Yeah, we are. By Uncle Mugen. Renpai. Fabulous music. Kevin MacLeod. Yeah, the classic. And thank you for taking time to read my somewhat questionable work. I mean, aren't your works questionable in general? It's fine for, I mean, if you follow the correct sources, you learn that this is a great medicinal herb, basically. And yes, it can be used for making basically clothes and so on. Then again, we don't know how many more plants like this there are that, you know, that were shushed away, basically. Who knows? I mean, I don't particularly care about drugs and so on, and not only drugs but anything addictive as well, so I mean, I wouldn't take it. I don't see a reason to do so, right? But I also don't see a reason to smoke, for example, right? Just your normal tobacco cigarettes and so on. Anyway, I mean, that was fun. A fun short journey. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next game. Bye bye. Have a wonderful day.